Picking your main might seem like a simple thing to do, but it can be a daunting task and it will leave you wondering if you made the right choice, especially if you're looking at tier lists for confirmation. In this video, we'll be going over how to choose your mains. In Overwatch, you don't just want one main because in this game, almost every hero has a good counter, and if you one-trick a hero, you're gonna have a much harder time ranking up. If you want in-depth guides on almost every hero in the game, teaching you just about everything you could learn about Overwatch, make sure you go to GameLeap.com right now. So why should you pick a few heroes to main instead of just playing everyone or a single hero? It might be easy to swap to all different heroes, but if you're a really good Hanzo player, for example, and your teammates ask you to swap off to Soldier 76 to deal with the enemy Pharah, you may have only played Soldier 76 once or twice. Positioning on Soldier and aiming on Soldier is going to be wildly different than aiming and positioning on Hanzo, and if you are going to be transferring habits from one hero to another, you usually want them to be very similar to each other in gameplay. This is why it's really good to main a small subset of heroes in different categories so that you can easily transfer habits over from different heroes and fall into the correct way to play naturally. The first thing you want to do when you're looking for a main hero are first go play every hero in a category that you want to main. For example, if you're a tank player, go into quick play or the practice range and just mess around with every hero in that role. You can play a few games on each hero, narrow down your list to the heroes that you enjoy playing, and whether it's their playstyle, looks, or even sound, it's going to be super important that you're maining a hero that you like, because if you hate playing a hero, even though they might be the most strong hero in the game, it's not going to be rewarding, it's not going to be fun, and that's really what is going to matter. Is if you're having fun on a hero, you're going to be playing better, you're going to be in better spirits, and you're just going to be doing a lot better on that hero than you normally would. Now let's talk about DPS first, since it's the largest category in the game of heroes and we really have to break it down. There are two categories of DPS. There are hitscan and non-hitscan heroes. Hitscan heroes are heroes like Bastion, Cassidy, Ashe, Soldier, Widow, Tracer, Reaper, and a few more. But really what you have to take away here is that hitscan heroes are going to be better at shooting long-range targets. For example, they're going to be better at hitting heroes like Pharah and Echo, because imagine shooting a Pharah and Echo that are, in the air somewhere with a projectile. It's not very easy, and so long as your crosshairs on the enemy and you press your left mouse button, then the enemies are going to die. Well, not die, but they'll take damage at least. And even though all of these heroes are hit scan, they don't actually share the same aiming techniques. For example, a hero like Cassidy and Widowmaker are not going to be focusing on tracking, while heroes like Tracer and Soldier focus very heavily on tracking. And depending on your aim style and preferences, you may want to stick with only tracking heroes or exclusively use flick heroes. Even though your aim is going to develop over time and you might be able to aim with both of them very easily, almost all the time people are going to prefer one or the other. For example, I am a pretty strict hit scan player, but I can flex over to Hanzo, but I kind of suck at Genji. So it's like you can mix between, but I really excel at hit scan, and I mostly choose hit scan for the heroes that I play. Now, speaking of non-hit scan heroes, we have Echo, Genji, Hanzo, Junkrat, Mei, Pharah, Sojourn, Symmetra, and Torbjorn. Nearly all the non-hit scan heroes have projectiles of some sort that they're going to be firing out, which is going to be a lot different from aiming with the hit scan heroes. So depending on your aim style, now you have to choose between hit scan and projectiles. If you're constantly swapping between hit scan and projectile, it can very easily throw off your aim, and it's better to get used to one or the other until you're comfortable enough that you won't forget how to aim with hit scan when you swap over to Hanzo for a few minutes. Now we have to break it down even further. First, we're going to be going over our long-ranged heroes first. These are going to be our snipers as well as our hit scan heroes that are going to be very good at playing from a distance and just slowly whittling away at the enemies and getting picks that way. So you're going to be using Ashe, Cassidy, Soldier 76, Sojourn, Hanzo, and Widowmaker. Now, you should notice that only one of those heroes are a projectile hero. Most of the time, heroes in this game that are longer ranged are going to be hit scan based, and that's because at a very long distance, you're not really going to be hitting headshots with Hanzo unless you're getting lucky or you're spamming a corner that the enemies are going to walk around. These heroes are going to be mostly hit scan, and you don't actually have to pick a long-ranged hero. You can stick with a shorter ranged hero or a mid-ranged playstyle. You can completely ignore just these long-range heroes. You don't have to even think about them if you don't want to play from a range. The second category is going to be our flankers and our dive heroes. These are going to be Echo, Reaper, Pharah, Sombra, Tracer, and Genji. Now, Echo and Pharah are going to be a little bit out there when it comes to flanking and diving. You can also spam with them. There's a lot of things that you can do differently with Echo and Pharah, and I would highly suggest trying one of them out and learning if you like that playstyle, because it's almost different from anything else in the game. The third is going to be our spam heroes, which are really good at breaking shields and burning down enemy tanks. In this category, we have Echo, Bastion, Hanzo, Junkrat, Pharah, Symmetra, and Torbjorn. Now, I'm going to add a few heroes like Cassidy here is pretty good, and Soldier 76 is also good. Even though I mentioned them in the other categories, we have some overlap here because not every hero fills out a niche and they can fill out multiple roles. So now you should have at least 3 heroes, maybe 1 from each role or 2 from one role and 1 from another. Make sure you have a little bit of a differing playstyle in one of the heroes. They don't all have to correlate in aim and playstyle, but it certainly helps if they do. Alright, now we can get into the tanks. After you pick a few heroes that you like to play, now it's time to narrow it down. You want to pick 2 or 3 mains to play for different situations, and we're going to go over the situations now. First, you have your dive tanks. These tanks are going to be going into the enemies as well as setting up flanks or dives with their teammates to get picks. D.Va, Doomfist, Winston, and Wrecking Ball. These 4 heroes have similar playstyles and can easily set up dives with their teammates to get picks. You'll want to play dive tanks on more open maps with lots of high grounds, as well as if you have teammates that are playing heroes like Tracer and Genji, even if it's not an open map, you can easily swap over to a dive tank so that you can play with your team better. Now let's do supports. Before we get into this though, we have 2 heroes that are kind of outliers, and that is Zenyatta and Lucio. These 2 heroes have defensive ultimates. Brigitte could be included in this, but her ult is not nearly as strong as those 2. Every support player should be able to flex over to at least Zenyatta or Lucio to counter enemy nanoblades or graviton surges from Zarya. I promise you that expanding your hero pool to know at least one of these heroes will save your life in more than one game. Alright, now we're going to go into the single target healers first, and we have Ana, Kiriko, Mercy, and Zenyatta. These heroes can be played almost everywhere and will do really well no matter who you pick, so you're going to have a good time on just about every map. But you have to realize that Ana and Zenyatta are going to be a lot less mobile than Kiriko and Mercy, so picking either 1 or 2 of these heroes can be a really good option for every single map. Now, one thing that I can't stress enough about Overwatch itself is just about how viable every hero in the game is. I've seen Grandmasters Symmetra and Torbjorn one-tricks, and even though I hate having them on my team, it just goes to show how even if you're playing a suboptimal hero, as long as you learn every situation and every way to play with them, you can consistently win and improve. Thank you all for watching, and tell me who your main is down in the comments, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.